Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Iris and the Giant. Iris and the Giant is a combination of collectible card game and turn-based RPG, wrapped in a roguelike package and a stunning art style. As you play, you need to guide Iris through a fantasy world inspired by Greek mythology, battling her inner demons as you fight your way to the Giant who is raging inside her mind. Iris and the Giant is a game that really speaks to me emotionally. This is a game that's a lot deeper than what first appears on the surface, both from a storytelling standpoint and a gameplay one. From the very first cutscene that plays, which happens before you even hit the menu, Iris and the Giant cuts deep. Most of the cutscenes you see in the game aren't very long, but they are incredibly impactful, particularly if you've ever struggled or are struggling with mental health. But there are also tons of smaller details in Iris and the Giant that ground the story and the emotional state of the character, and that ring true for someone struggling with their inner demons. Like the cards that you collect being literal representations of the turmoil in Iris's mind. The Tornado card that represents her rage, for example, or the Sorrow cards that represent, well, you get it. Skills you can level up also represent her attempts to deal with her struggles. There are skills such as resilience, optimism, and will. You can also call on the aid of imaginary friends to help you deal with the hordes of monsters standing in your way. Those monsters, like a person's own inner demons, are ready to kick your ass if you're not ready for them. And sometimes even if you are. Iris and the Giant is not an easy game. You straight up won't make it to the end the first few times you play. There are difficulty settings that can make the game more or less challenging, but I spent the entirety of my time so far playing through the game on Classic mode, which is essentially the normal mode. The loop is fairly straightforward. You make your way along a path towards confronting the titular giant, with many monsters blocking your way. You start out with a deck of cards that you use as attacks and other abilities, and need to collect more along the way from treasure chests to replenish your supply, because if you run out, it's game over. The tactical combat in Iris and the Giant is incredibly fine-tuned. The game does a good job of easing you into the first few levels before steadily increasing the challenge by throwing more powerful enemies at you. Rather than upping the difficulty by simply making monsters able to soak more hits, Iris and the Giant relies on creative enemy design and enemy variety to challenge you to craft strategies on the fly based on the cards you're holding. Iris and the Giant really encourages thoughtful strategy. While you're generally able to brute force your way through the early levels, once you've made your way up a few sets of stairs, you need to be very mindful of what you're doing and how you're doing it if you want to make much more progress, particularly as you can generally only play one card per turn. So sometimes the order in which you kill enemies may be important. Aiming an arrow at a bear trap might not save you from being hit by the 3 enemies standing in front of you, but will save you from taking much more damage later on. Some enemies are armoured and will require multiple hits to defeat. Others may confer special abilities to their allies, such as allowing them to attack multiple times or making them invulnerable. Others will have some even nastier abilities, such as stealing your cards with each hit or lowering your maximum health. Some may be immune to physical attacks, some to magical ones. There are 51 different cards for you to find in Iris and the Giant, and they're all useful in their own ways. Axes can attack every enemy in front of you, daggers can one-shot an enemy regardless of their armor or abilities, tornadoes can strip them of their armor entirely, thunder can kill every enemy of the same species. You'll also be collecting stars from vanquished enemies and crystals from the world in general, the former of which lets you collect new cards, the latter allowing you to level up your stats. Defeating more powerful enemies or bosses will grant you new special abilities that can change or powerfully augment your entire strategy. There's an impressive amount of depth to Iris and the Giant that I wasn't expecting when I first saw its minimalistic art style, foolishly assuming that the rest of the game would be equally as minimalist. Nope. Iris and the Giant boasts an incredibly compelling gameplay experience that forces you to think tactically at all times about what you can do and what you should do. Leave a treasure chest to block a lane of enemies from attacking you, tanking some damage to kill an even more powerful enemy further back, figuring out new combos you can pull off with the cards in your hand. There's a lot going on in each moment you're battling your way to the top of the world. To help you out, Iris and the Giant takes on some very familiar roguelike elements. You get as far as you can before dying and being sent right back to the beginning of the game with your progress reset. However, you won't start over entirely from scratch. You'll be able to unlock some new abilities and get some bonus cards to help you out, depending on how far you get, how many stars you collected, imaginary friend quests you complete, and if you found any of Iris's memories on your journey. By doing all of this, you're able to start equipping permanent upgrades that can help you get a little bit further next time. You can use memories to unlock new abilities, like more powerful cards to find, easier access to shortcuts, and more. Imaginary friends grant game-changing abilities. All of this empowers Iris and can help you fine-tune your strategies or simply make traversing the game a little bit less challenging. Basically, Iris and the Giant is one of my favourite gameplay experiences so far in 2020. It's a roguelite, a collectible card game, a strategy RPG, and an emotionally powerful story all rolled into one game, and it absolutely nails everything it's trying to do. The roguelike elements genuinely make you feel like you're getting more powerful, the cards are varied and fun to use, the RPG mechanics are implemented excellently, and the storytelling is genuinely moving. Iris and the Giant is a game that seems to be flying a little bit under the radar, which is a shame, because it's fantastic, and it's a game you should definitely take a look at. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around here at Words About Games. Our content includes review impressions of games big and small, a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing the happenings in and around the games industry, weekly opinion videos, reactions, debate-driven top 5 and top 10 lists, a regular Hall of Fame series where we discuss our favourite games, and indie game spotlights. We also stream every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. Most importantly, have a brilliant day.